All right, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday. Just doing a quick refresher, making sure I've got everything showing up appropriately for you guys. There we go. Excellent. All right, so in today's painting, we're going to be doing a watermelon and we will be drawing it on here. So I'll walk you through the steps of making those adjustments. All right, there we go. I had to turn the volume off on the other computer because I was hearing an echo of my voice. Okay, so a little bit of what we're looking at right now. We've got our colors for today. We are doing a watermelon painting, kind of appropriate for a summer weekend. And I am on an 8x10 canvas panel. Some of you at home may be painting on a stretched canvas to where it's a little bit wider, and there's some canvas on the edge of the stretcher bar. So for those of you on a stretched canvas, when we bring our background color to the edge, I do recommend that you carry it around the side, the top, and the bottom. That way it just looks nice hanging on the wall, having that wrap around the edge. And this is, I think I forgot to state at the beginning, this is Paint with Lovejoy. My little sticker's not there right now. And I teach primarily first-time and beginner painters. So one of my goals is just to kind of help everybody get a little more comfortable with the painting process and comfortable with painting at home. All right, and let's see. Hi, Denise. Thanks for jumping on. And yes, watermelon is perfect 4th of July food. And yes, the canvas is in a landscape position. You have full permission if you'd prefer to do a portrait one. You can switch out this and even any of the videos on my channel. If you want to do a different orientation for your canvas, go right ahead. All right, so to draw this, you've got your option at home. I'm going to do it with paint with a bit of a darker color, but if you want to do this with a pencil at home and then you can go back over it, feel free to do that for yours. So I'm actually going to make, let's see, let's go a bit of a light green, just so it shows up a little bit for you guys at home. And if you want, you can follow along and do it with the brush, or like I said, you can do it with a pencil. So as we're looking at this, we're going to do basically just like a half moon slice of a watermelon. So what we're going to do first is we're going to place a dot here and a dot here to kind of get the top part of our watermelon, and then we'll do a little curve to kind of connect these. And as we do this, please try not to judge yourself. Every watermelon is cut in different sections, different shapes. They grow in sometimes weird oblong shapes. I was trying to think of another word. So don't judge your shape of your watermelon all too much. All right, so starting on the right hand side, sometimes it's nice just to kind of start at that top corner. You're going to go down maybe about 4 inches or so, about a third of the way down the canvas, and then over another probably 3 or 4 inches, and then just place a dot. And even if you don't want to do that type of measurement, just go, that looks good. Okay, that's all you have to do. And then we're going to kind of do the same thing, and it's not going to be perfectly straight. It is going to be a bit of an angle. So you could just kind of follow along here and place your dot, or if you want to kind of start at the bottom, go up probably 4 inches and then over about 3 and place another dot. And then we're going to connect the dots. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember to breathe. It will not help to hold your breath by doing that. And then we're going to do kind of a half circle underneath this. And then that's basically our shape for our watermelon. So again, don't think too much. Just place your brush on one edge and then bring it over. And according to the way that I made my shape, this was a small circle watermelon. If yours is a little bit longer, then it was one of those longer oblong watermelons. All right, and then I do have this one sitting on a table. So I actually like to kind of start right at the watermelon and draw a line coming across. And then once you've drawn this line, keep your brush right there, but you're going to hover above the canvas without touching it and kind of pull it across. And then once you get to the other side of the watermelon, put your brush down and then finish the line. And again, if this happens to be a little bit of a curve, totally okay. Be nice to yourself. We are going to be painting over this. And we're going to start with the background first, then we'll do the table, and then we'll do the insides of our watermelon. And Denise, I know that you've been waiting for the doodles. As of next week, every Monday and Wednesday, a doodle will be released at 11 a.m. on my channel. So feel free to leave comments. They're only about 90 seconds. They're not that long. And they are simple, and I'll go over doing the pencil first, and then I go over with a brush. So it's really good brush practice to do the doodles if you do them with a brush. All right, so for our background, I'm kind of going for kind of a medium blue. You have full permission to change colors. If you want a purple background, if you want to do a sunset, if you want to do polka dots, please, whatever you want to do, you have full permission to switch out colors. So if you are painting with me for the first time ever, try a few different brush strokes as you are applying your paint. So first is kind of the full width of a brush stroke. Then you can take that brush, turn it sideways, a little bit skinnier line, and then a student favorite, all-time favorite, is literally just kind of making X marks and slapping your brush on the canvas. So we're going to be filling in from these lines to the edges of the canvas and our table line up. And we're going to kind of just slap it on there. If you've got any stress or frustrations, slap it into your canvas. They may not solve your problems, but you at least feel a little bit better in the process of painting. Now, if you have to mix your color 2, 3, 4 times, don't stress about getting the exact same shade, because once we have a base in here, I will talk about wet on wet blending and how you can kind of change the shade of your paint on your painting. All right, so let's see. I see a few more people jumping on the chat. Oh, awesome. Hi, Sarah, and hi, Jen, and Denise. Excellent. Awesome. And let's see. Oh, a firework painting. I'll add that to the demo list. I don't know if I'll be able to do it by next week, but I'll definitely get that on there, Sarah. So thanks for the suggestion. And Jen, definitely have more watercolor tutorials coming out. I've got 2 more in the editing stage right now. And I have a feeling they're going to be pretty popular. So I'm going to end up doing both watercolor tutorials and acrylic painting tutorials. So same with those, feel free to suggest stuff. And I am trying for the watercolors to do an acrylic step-by-step and also a watercolor using the same Traceable. So that way I can give you guys options. So the watercolor painting from yesterday, the hummingbird, that was also an acrylic demo that we did, oh gosh, probably a month ago at least. But we use the same Traceable. So I'm going to do that for quite a few, so that way you guys have multiple options for those Traceables. And with that being said, any of the Traceables, any of my videos, if you want to do this with colored pencils, markers, crayons, anything, just get creative. That is the most important part of the creative process. Just create something. All right. Oh, and hi, Luis. Thank you for joining us. Oh, watercolor ocean scene. Excellent. So I've got a couple of lists going with all the suggestions. So I really appreciate your guys' feedback. You've definitely helped this channel grow to what it is, and you are a big instrumental part of where it is continuing to grow. Okay, so once you have kind of your base background color in there, this is called a wet on wet blending method. And you can do this with your darker pigment, or you can even do it with other colors. So here I'm grabbing some of that direct blue. We're gonna slap it on here, take out your frustrations. If you're inclined to slap the color somewhere, I do not. Trust your instincts and go ahead and put that color there. So after I've slapped that on there, I would like to wipe off the excess paint, just so that way I'm not applying more. And then just like mixing your color here on the plate, we're gonna do the same thing on the background. And literally it's just moving your brush back and forth and the 2 colors mixed together, kind of creating a new intermediate color in between. Sorry, I'm definitely tripping on my words all day today, all this morning. All right, so again, I'm just kind of using that light pressure, just playing with how the saturation of the pigment is blending in with the base color. And like I said earlier, this can only be done while your background is wet, which is why it's called wet on wet blending. If you're inclined to finger paint while you're doing this, go right ahead. It is a lot of fun and very therapeutic and tactile just to move the paint with your fingers. All right, so I am going to wipe that brush off. We're going to go for a little bit lighter area here, and that's where I'm going to grab the direct white. Same thing, we're going to slap it on there, but you're also going to notice that your lighter colors in the wet on wet blending method will diffuse a lot quicker, and for your darker colors, a small amount of pigment goes a long way. So the more that you practice your blending method, and basically the more that you paint, the more you'll come to kind of understand that concept and how you work with your paint and tools. All right, so as you're doing your background at home, do everything that you want to your background before you move into the table, because you can only do this blending while your paint is wet. And if you want to go back in and maybe add a little more blue, go right ahead. If you want to add some teal in there or purple, feel free to do that. All right, so when you are finished, we're going to clean that brush really good, and we're going to move down to the table. And I think it's just, yeah, we just got kind of a white creamy table, pretty straightforward and completely unintentional. But now as I'm looking at the palette and what I'll be painting, I did keep with the red, white, and blue color scheme. We'll just have a little bit of the green for the rind of the watermelon. So very fitting, and I hope everybody is having a nice and safe 4th of July weekend here. All right. Oh, I see more comments. All right. I forget to look over here sometimes. Awesome. Awesome, Sarah. I'm glad you enjoy it, and thanks for jumping on. And Miss Smith, I don't want to mispronounce your first name because I think I already did that, so we'll just call you Miss Smith. But thanks for jumping on. And Sarah, just to mention on your comment, I was doing these daily for the last 3 months due to the coronavirus and everything, and just kind of giving my people, you guys, something to do at home. All right, so I'll pick that up in a minute. We're going to make a kind of a light gray. So I pulled some of this white aside. We're going to add a tiny amount of black to make a light gray, and then we'll put some other colors on top of it. If you would like to warm it up, you can add a touch of yellow, and that will get you to a bit of a creamy color. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fill this whole base in, and I am going right over those lines that I did in the beginning. And when I get to the watermelon, I will be going over that kind of light green line. So if you used paint or if you used a pencil, make sure you go over these lines. And for those daily demos, like I said, it was more for the coronavirus, giving me something to do, giving you guys something to do on a daily basis. And now that some of my work's picking back up, and due to a lot of the technical issues we had in the last 2 weeks of doing them daily, I've switched down to just doing the live ones Saturday and Sunday. And then on Fridays, it's a pre-recorded video and we do a premiere for it. And that was a lot of fun yesterday. So I think I definitely want to do more of that. It was nice to just focus on just conversing with you guys instead of painting and technical and video and answering questions. So we'll definitely be doing more of that. And as I look at this, I'm realizing that I need to make this left side a little bit higher. So you just paint right on top of that if you need to. All right, so now we've got our base on here, and I did go right over that line on the watermelon and the line on the edge of the table. Now we're going to go just a little bit darker. So a little bit of pigment goes a long way. So again, I'm grabbing some of that black. I like to put it on the edge and then leave what's on my brush to mix in with here. Just makes it a little bit easier. And as you're in your beginning stages of painting, I'm trying to get you guys to get comfortable with just the process and your own, pushing your own comfort zone. And building you kind of good habits as you begin your painting skills. All right, so you may think it's dark enough on here, and then when you apply it, you go, you know what, not dark enough. So totally okay if you need to adjust your color after you've applied a little bit on your canvas. And we've talked about it in a few other demos. What you're witnessing is what we call color theory. You interpret a color based on the color next to it. So it looks one way on the plate, and then it may look a little bit different on when you apply it to your canvas. All right, so still taking that color, we're going to put a little bit of shading on the table. And again, just kind of slapping that color on there. wiping off the excess paint, and then coming back with just light pressure and blending that darker space into the base of our table color. And when we come here to blend this, we're not going to blend into the watermelon, but we're basically light pressure again and just blend it away from the watermelon, and that softens that line. And again, this may be kind of weird and awkward if this is your first time painting, but just know that this gets more comfortable the longer that you paint, and the more your muscles get comfortable with holding the brush, and your brain gets comfortable with how you mix your paint. All right, so I am taking a little bit of that white. We're going to put a bit of a highlight, even though it is already pretty light on here, that light gray. And let's get a little bit right here. And like I said, I did use pretty light gray, so this white that I'm adding might not be a huge difference on the video as you're looking, and it might not be a huge difference on yours. So sometimes that just is part of the video process and the painting process, so feel free to adjust. So here I'm actually going darker black, darker gray, and going again right underneath that watermelon. This would be the darkest shadow part. And let's get a little bit coming up here. All right, and then again, wipe that off. And this is almost what we call the cast shadow coming out. So again, just kind of light pressure and almost tapping, and I'm still holding my brush kind of at a 45-degree angle instead of my brush perpendicular. I've demonstrated two different types of blending in the demos prior. So if you're using the one where it's more the pointy method, you'll have a slightly different texture on yours. And again, if you're inclined to finger paint to just kind of smooth that out, give it a try. Okay. All right, and I love that I can actually watch it on the video too, so I can see where it's at and how it's looking from a distance. Awesome. All right, just looking to see if there's any other questions. All right, so let's clean the brush. We're going to move into our watermelon. And let's see, we're going to actually, let's start with the red. And we're going to kind of not fill the whole place in. We're going to make a little bit of a line right here, and we'll fill that in with red. And then we have a little bit of the rind, the little bit white, and then just kind of an outline of green just on the bottom. And then we'll get those little black watermelon seeds in there. Okay, so you've got a few options here. Red and white make pink. And I do know that there are millions of different shades of the interior of a watermelon, and there are even golden watermelons too, so if you want to switch out your color to that, you can. So your call if you want to do, and I'll do both options, if you want to maybe put a little bit of white, a little bit of red, and then we're going to add just a little bit of white to it. We're still staying pretty closer to the red, we're not going quite pink. So that's an option, and let me grab the other brush. Another option would be using the yellow. So like I said, your call. So a little bit of the red, and then you can take the yellow. When you add the yellow, it does go a bit more orangish. So again, it just depends on what color you want for your watermelon. So your option between the two, I'm a little more partial to more of the pink, the darker pink. So I'm actually just going to make a little bit more. So again, just whichever option you want to go for. Let's go a little more red. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to draw that perimeter line. So as you look at your watermelon, we've got kind of the long flat edge right here and then the curve. So starting on the left-hand side at that flat edge, I want you to go in about an inch, make a little dot. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Start at that top corner, go in about an inch, make a little dot, and then we're going to connect those dots with that curve. So we're also going to mimic kind of that shape of what that curve that we made the first time. And if you need to do this with the pointy brush, where I'm using the medium flat brush, feel free to use that pointy brush for that. And again, if it's a little bit maybe whiter here and skinnier on that side, that's okay. Like I said, things in nature, we may think they look perfect, but there's so much unperfectness in nature that we kind of glaze over it. And that's part of what makes things unique, is it's not unperfect, it's just uniquely different. and we should celebrate the reasons why it's uniquely different. All right, so as you're doing this again, just make sure you're going right on top of that first original line, and if you are overlapping your background just a little bit, that's okay. Side note, I do recommend that your background is fully dry before you move into this step. I paint pretty quick to keep these as close to a 30-minute demo as I can, 30 to 40 minutes, but you do not have to keep up the pace with me for a 30-minute demo. I want you to utilize the pause feature and pause the video as you need to and go at your pace. All right, so now I'm grabbing some of that direct red. It might not be a huge difference, and because I'm also painting on top of wet paint, I'm going to come in at that 45-degree angle here to lay a little bit of a darker color in our watermelon. We'll go a little bit lighter in just a moment. So again, just to kind of reiterate, when you come in with your brush like this, your brush strokes will show up a little bit more. If you kind of come in with this 45-degree angle sideways, then you can soften and smooth out some of your brush strokes. And again, that gets more comfortable with more practice. Yeah, just a little bit more red right here. All right, then we're going to wipe that brush off. I'm going to take a little bit of white, and again, we don't need a whole lot. I'm going to place it directly on here. Let's do a little bit more. And then again, wipe that brush off. And I like to kind of pull my brush at this 45-degree angle, and we're going to squish it in there, and it makes a lighter pink. Trying to keep the lightest part at the top, and then as it diffuses into the middle section, then the color gets a little bit darker. If you do this, and maybe you lose that area, just go back, reapply your white, and then just do it again. Because like I said earlier when we were doing the background, this light color gets eaten up in the darker colors a lot quicker. All right, and then you're going to clean your brush. I'm actually going to move down to the pointy brush. We're going to get the rind in there. All right, we're going to use a little bit of this white. We're going to use a little touch of yellow and a touch of green. And for mine, that green's kind of minty, so a little bit of green goes a long way. If it's easier, you've got options on how you mix your color. You could mix just a touch of the yellow and a touch of the green and then add your white. So just a few extra options there. I'm going to add a little more green. All right, so because we're using such a light color right now and we just applied a rather dark, intense color, few options. At home, give yourself about 5 or 10 minutes, go take a quick walk, stretch your legs, but let your red paint dry before you apply this. If you are super excited and not in a rush, but just really ready to move on to the next step, just be very conscious as you are bringing this lighter color right up next to the red. If you happen to get some of that red in this color, take a clean paper towel, wipe off basically the contaminated area, and then reapply the colors as needed. So just something to kind of structure and think about when you're going from a dark color to a light color, especially if they're going to be right next to each other. All right, and it's taken shape nicely. We don't have to do as much shading on this, but what we're going to do next is actually take that direct green, and I'm going to stay with that small pointy brush, and we're going to start on this edge and go probably about medium width, so we'll overlap some of the table a little bit and carry this all the way around, and that's going to be the dark rind. And then we'll go back and kind of soften the structure between the lighter rind color and the darker green. All right. So again, just kind of grabbing that green. And as you're doing this, you can put your pinky out to kind of steady your hand or rest your forearm against the edge of the table, but trying to hold your arm, hover it above the canvas, and create kind of a medium width line. It will be beneficial if you can give your arm a bit of support and structure. So utilize the edge of the table as needed. And again, I'm using about medium pressure, so that way this is a bit of a wider line. And Um, I am using student grade paint, so it's on the transparent side, so I am applying it thicker, and you can see where I just keep grabbing more paint. I think it's about 4 times that I've grabbed more paint as I'm doing this. So even if you just do one full loop and then you go back and apply your paint a little bit thicker, that's okay. All right, got a juicy looking watermelon. So at this point, I actually like to clean the brush, dry it off because we don't really want a whole lot of water on the brush. And it may even be easier with the medium flat brush, so you can give that a try too. But right where the two colors meet, our lighter rind color and our green, just making sure there wasn't any more water on there, you're going to kind of soften those. So using just kind of the tip of the brush. Sometimes you'll need to, I've got a big buildup of the green on there, so go back and wipe off that excess paint and then come back and soften. And again, you can kind of see where the two colors mixing create a new color. You do want to leave a good amount of the lighter rind color. So if this is kind of proving difficult for you, try just making little dots. Then wipe off that excess paint and then make some more little dots. Like I said, the more that you paint and the more you get comfortable with holding the brush and the pressure and the blending, the easier a lot of this becomes. So again, be kind to yourself as you're in your beginning stages of learning new skills. All right. Okay, and let's see, we're at about 27 minutes, not bad. Let's see, we got a few other questions. Brushes, what brand of brushes I'm using. So let's see, there is a description, a link in the description box for supplies, and I think I've got a few sets of brushes on there. For brushes, I'm actually using the Artist Loft. I think it's like a pack of 12 for $5. It's what I've used as student brushes for the last probably 10 years. And they're actually pretty good quality. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the stuff of Artist Loft, but buying their brushes and even their canvas panels and canvases are great. And they'll work well for first-time painters. What I recommend with the brushes is you want something that's kind of flexible. So a lot of the synthetic brushes work well. You can get away at the beginning with a cheap brush. Save your money or put your money into better paint. So step it up and buy a good quality student grade paint. I recommend the Liquitex brand just because it's affordable and it's the closest consistency to what I use in classes. But you'll find that with a little bit better paint, some of your blending will be a little bit easier and some of your coverage will be a little bit easier. So hope that helps. Okay, so I think we're ready for our little watermelon seeds. So I like to use the small pointy brush, and these are like little teardrops or little dash marks, so whatever you feel like doing. And a lot of times I actually like to use just the width of the brush and make these little dash marks. And they sometimes stay in the same line, and then sometimes they're a little more random. So your call, how many seeds? Maybe your watermelon's a seedless watermelon, who knows? But your call, what you add to yours. All right, and again, they generally kind of hang out in an area, but they're not fully in line. All right, so clean that brush. We're gonna put a few highlights on there with the white paint, and then that will bring us into the conclusion of today's painting. And then we'll be here again tomorrow. We're doing a sunset pier, so no traceable for that one either, but should be a lot of fun, and I have a feeling people really love the silhouette designs, so I think that one will be a good one for everybody. All right, so last couple of highlights, grabbing that pure white. And again, this doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. It doesn't have to be fully connected. We're just bringing some like bold, poppy highlights to our composition. And you can see that I am grabbing more paint almost each brush stroke. I don't know if it's going to show up on the table down here. Yeah, not so much. So as you're doing these, light pressure, whoops, and I got a little bit of black in there. That's okay. We'll call it a happy accident. I was a huge Bob Ross fan. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that red, tone that down. There we go. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the painting process. Please send me photos of what you paint. Email them, paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com, or tag me in social media. Paint with Lovejoy. Please keep giving me your suggestions of what you want painted in the future. Please keep painting. Encourage your community and your family and friends to paint. It is a nice therapeutic outlet. Yeah. And when you're ready to take skills to the next level, check out my online school, Paint with Lovejoy, and check out the Paint Your Pet class, Paint from Your Own Photograph. And it is geared towards first-time and beginner painters. And then check out the Intro to Palette Knife Scraping. Highly therapeutic and a lot of fun. All right, so I hope you guys have a great holiday weekend. Those of you that are in the States and everybody else, just have an awesome, safe weekend. And I will see everybody tomorrow. Have a great day. Cheers.